I am Crystal Adindu, Principal Certification Candidate at Lamar University. My expected graduation is spring 2015. I would like to present two of my participation videos. In these videos, I first participate in a discussion and planning with my instructional leadership team. We have just completed our Sims reading and writing analysis for our spring benchmark test that we took in grades 3 through 6. So usually after we take our benchmark testing, our instructional leadership team will sit down with either our assistant principal or our principal, and usually it is our assistant principal, just to look at student groups, to look at percentages, those areas where we were successful, those where we have concerns. We look at certain TEKs, certain categories, and we do it or examine it for each content area. So here, my assistant principal, our math specialist, our instructional facilitator, and my literacy partner is here, and we're just going through our data that has been printed through our district system, and it's called Daniel Long, and it just prints out all of our district's percentages, again, as far as where we have concerns as a district and individual schools, what TEKs we were successful as a district compared to individual schools, also teachers' classrooms, and individual students. So we began our discussion, and this was headed by our instructional facilitator. And our assistant principal was just interested in knowing what are we going to do after we've looked at data, which is what we always do. But she did want us to go and to be more specific about student groups and individual students. We are looking at the area of students that we consider to be strategic. These are the students that are traditionally sometimes called bubble students, because we are looking towards preparing for the STAR test, our state assessment. So we're looking at that middle group of students who are just on the edge of being possibly benchmark, which would be grade level. So we're talking through just who those students are, and who will support those students, and what the support schedules look like.
Okay, so per recoverable? Okay.
Yeah, within that range.
So looking at, how do you think we should best use Wise Hughes during that time, that ELR time? Because she's there from 9:30 to 10, 11 to 11:30, and then 1:30 to 2, which is...
Yeah. So I would say I'll be sitting down with Bill and getting materials together. She will have to pull the small group, versus like what she could do in 3rd grade, where she could be working with the benchmark or whatever while the teacher. That's not gonna work with 6. Yeah. So she needs to be pulling these groups of kids out of each rotation. That would be her group. But the thing is, it's too big. So that's why I was wondering about the range, because if we want to bump it up and not include like the low 50, like 50% or the low 50s, then she would be able to pull a group of about 6 each rotation. But I'm only pulling in the morning. My schedule can change after 4th grade writing.
Okay.
Then I can be pulling in the afternoon as well.
All right. So, which block do you pull? The first block.
I do the first block.
The first block. What time do you pull?
I go from 10. Now that Black History is over, let me look back at my time, because I had to change my time twice to accommodate Black History. So let me go back to my original time.
So what you're saying is that Ms. Hughes will be pulling a group from each one of the homeroom.
Yes.
blocks.
So basically, Ms. Hughes will be going into the language arts with Miss Bill, the language arts teacher, during that block 3 times.
Okay.
And then when she comes, she will have materials already provided that will be targeting the specific TEKs.
You already give it to her too?
Yes. And that's what Bill and I are going to be working through so that she has what she needs. And again, we'll be very specific, very strategic. The students that are in the groups, I'm going to further look at I want to be able to get with their teacher, the 6th grade language arts teacher, to look at their actual tests to even further figure out what we're going to do for our attack on the TEKs, because if they're all struggling kind of with the same in a certain type of questioning, then I want to be able to target that.
And that makes sense because different students have different strategies that they use and are a little bit better at. And so it does make sense, and that's the best way for us to be strategic, and I need to do the same with 3rd grade.
So that's my plan for now.
I'm doing that for 3rd grade as well. When I look at the schedule for the blocks of time, I'm gonna put that up. So there's the schedule. Okay,
And I was thinking
schedule.
about Miss Hughes. What time did you all say for Miss Hughes again?
9.
Because it looks like
She's pulling
from
from.
the first one and this,
And the 3rd.
but
I don't see that.
well,
She's
okay.
pulling from
Yeah.
9:30 to 10, which is
Rotation.
The
in
first.
the middle of the first block,
Mhm.
and then she's pulling from 11 to 11:30, which is
The beginning of the first one.
Beginning of the second one.
I mean, yeah, don't say the beginning of the first one. You know, it's not the beginning of the first one.
it's in the middle of the second block as
But-
well. It's in the middle of the second block. Well, I don't see there's no 3rd.
And see, that's the thing. That 1:30
Isn't
to
this the
2,
end now?
it's the end now.
Of
before
the
they
third
go
block.
to
Okay.
bed at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
So
So that's why you're saying now that we have Black History program over,
then
that
that
would be
should
for
be
that.
one from each
Mhm.
block.
Middle.
And that would be the 3rd block.
It's the middle.
Yes.
This is the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay. And I think for 5th grade, Eli, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can we go back to 6th grade for a minute? Because I really do have a question about that. So with the students that I have, so for example, if there's 10 students, I still am not clear on, out of those 10, they all can't go in a small group environment because then that defeats the purpose. So how do I then identify within those 10 which 6 or whatever are going to go? Do I take out the 50?
I think one of the things we probably need to do is have some discussion with the teacher.
Okay.
That's
I'll-
one
okay.
piece.
Yeah.
But I think even with doing that, we kind of need to have a game plan too. So as you were looking, I just see one class that has 11, and then the other 2 have 6. Correct?
No, I have.
Did I miss some kids?
Yeah, well, because for this class for
San Juan.
Bill, San Juan, yes, I have the 6.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Campbell has 11, and then
But then for Brian, I
Bryant.
had 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's because I purposely included the 71.4 because that was the exact 71% was
okay,
the
we're
cutoff,
passing.
and
Okay.
that just makes me nervous. So I wanted to include the students that got the
So that
71.4.
how many extra students?
So
is
that's
that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8.
8 students total instead of the 6. But that again, I'm sorry, it was because I included those 2 that were barely on the cut off.
So I think at this point, because of
Eight,
the data, there should be a lot of small group discussions, grouping going on in the classroom.
Definitely. Like,
Small group and according to what?
According to the TEKs, based
And
upon TEKs.
And I think also, well, they're just not gonna say how they answer the question, but I don't even know if.
I mean, their thought process, but Robin brought up
Mhm.
a good point of looking at their actual
Mhm.
textbooks.
Oh,
and that
yeah,
would be a
because that's what
lot.
I did from the TEKS checks, and that's actually how I was able to pull some of the materials that I did with the group that I was meeting with currently.
You looked at the
But that's what I
specific
did, and I
specific-
looked at their tests.
Well, the expectation was that the teacher should also be doing that.
And the thing about it, like if you had a student that maybe chose an answer that was like close to what the actual answer was, that would be different from a student who was like totally far off in their
Exactly.
thinking. So
Well, in math, there's patterns when you're looking at the December TEKS check and the SIM. it's like your figure 19 got added in on the sim,
Mhm.
but on the TEKS check, it was just
the
the
negative
TEK.
Mhm.
And so when you look at the questions there and the percentage, because it looks like they went down on some of them, but
Mhm.
actually it got harder with
Mhm.
layers.
Mhm.
But then when you look at even the different TEKs in math, if they responded to just say on like one of the fraction ones, if they responded to like A here, and you go back to within that same area but a different TEK,
Mhm.
it's interesting because they responded to C up here and it's the same kind of thinking pattern just across. So it is looking,
Mhm.
even if like we don't have access to all of their books,
Mhm.
but like looking at their answer choices, if I'm going back and looking at that,
What are they exactly?
I can see some patterns even there.
And it also helps, like you were saying, also to pay attention to those categories, and that's where,
Yes.
you know,
Oh yeah.
being that specific too, because the different categories have
How
different
they-
teaks,
yeah.
and it still takes some of the same thought
And
processes.
maybe that's
and
one of the ways that we
Yeah.
can
Well,
push it back
and
to
looking at
this.
the
If this is
recoverables,
flexible
where
grouping,
you know just
maybe
how many
looking
questions do they
at
have to get right to get to
some
that percentage.
correlation between
If they've missed
the
like the old
category,
days, if they've missed like
the readiness.
you know 6
Okay,
out of
and maybe
7
that
in
will
this
help us
category, well, then
maybe
that's a category we
group.
could target because it's the most
Okay.
heavily
The
tested
kids-
one,
Yeah,
so
I
we
think
can
the
get
same way we kind
them
of
into
do right
that.
now. It's the same way you kind of did writing.
Yeah.
So when you guys were talking about, because I was kind of making sure I had my numbers right, looking at Hughes and Newhouse's schedules and our small groups, are you looking at which teachers have the most recoverables in their class or intensive? What are you looking at for that, like
I was
scheduling
looking at-
support?
I was looking at the most recoverable and seeing how we get them in that benefit of their use of their time in that classroom during that time. So for McDiffin, it would be the reverse. Because because Hughes won't be pulling the strategic, she can take care of the benchmark, whereas.
So
McDiffin
they're
would
going
do-
to
Focus on those strategic
Yeah.
kids.
So we're wanting the teacher then to focus on strategic?
No,
It
it
depends.
just
I don't think
depends.
everybody's case.
No, it
Okay,
just depends.
Depends on the teacher, okay.
It depends on what's going
and the
on.
support person.
And the support person there.
Because they come with different levels of
Different strengths.
Yeah.
expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that just.
So did that help with your question? With
Yes,
multiple
definitely, because
over
then,
the small group number?
then that'll help
Okay.
me to decipher and go through.
Okay.
And that way I'll have something to justify. I didn't want to just base it off that number.
We're putting these kids together.
I
and
wanted to
putting
have
these
some,
kids right.
something to justify.
So you'll be grouping them?
Yeah,
Okay.
For-
Give me that when you finish.
yes. And it would just be for this one block, basically
Yeah.
for Campbell students and just going through. But the other two classes are okay. Because I mean, 8 is a lot, but I mean, if we utilize the materials that are, what am I trying to say? Like something that's very whole group type friendly,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be okay.
And I know with Anthony's class, we had talked about it. It's going to be difficult to really determine what strategic is. I mean, the problem is there's a lot, probably about 3/4 of the class is below 50%. So for her, I guess I'm looking at 52 to 72%, and there's not really a 72.
That's only 4 students.
Yeah, I put one student number 1 in there too. That's 60%. I mean, I have student number 1, student number 8, 9, 17, and 18. And it will change my students that I've been seeing.
So you're gonna work with those?
These are the kids that will be, a couple of them are different from
Who
I
you
work
have
with now.
been?
Yeah, cause like number 9, he's in my group. Number 10 is in my group, and number 18 is in my group. So I'll be switching out 3 of the students, and that was a change since this past benchmark, the February benchmark.
Okay.
And there was also a change with Miss Rednick's group, and I need to look at I have my present small group with me, but and she even emailed me the list of the changes, the kids that she thought would be, and a lot of them I see 2, 3, 5, 7, 16, 17, and 20,
Okay.
and I think these are most of the kids that she said that she wanted me to see. So there will be some changes in Rednick's group as well.
There'll be some changes in Vanderpool as well, but then there's some kids that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm trying to figure out how I'm looking at Anthony's because there's more of a need
I
there.
was about to say,
Yeah.
yeah,
So maybe there needs to be
I
a,
was concerned about that.
What are you all thinking about that? More an additional time for support, or maybe switching that teacher out with another one, or as far as time slots?
Are you
or-
supporting it?
I
You support
Anthony
it.
and Rednick.
and I support Vanderpool and Garza right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 6 recoverable. There's my group right there. But then I'm concerned about some of these others. I really would like you all said, I really would like to see what their booklets look like. Personally, is the,
And that's just a matter of
are we going in there and looking to
just
see
going
what
in
is
there and
it?
asking.
Yeah, what, did they just not finish? They just circled it? What am I seeing? I think that's a conversation that the teacher and I need to have.
And then too, I know you guys are working one-on-one with teachers. I don't know if y'all thought about this too. In comparison to when, like if we go back and we look at these TEKs, when they were actually instructing, whenever it was, 2 weeks ago, a month and a half ago, how did the students perform on that TEK? And then did they use that assessment to go back and do some reteaching? Did they do some spiraling? I guess I think more so specifically for Anthony. She, like you said, she has a huge number of kids that are below 50%, and I know I need to get with Amber and say a little bit more strategically, what are we going to do? What is this going to look like for her? Because somewhere along the way, the kids aren't getting it's just not.
And you know what, even whether these are different teams, even from testing from last time, we still had the same percentages as far as the last teach check, so.
But there's still a concern, even when we think about there needs to definitely be a switch. Because even when we talk about the kids that recover, well, for some of these classes, still not even half class.
No, once you tie in who passed plus the recoverable,
Yeah.
we're
not
saying
even-
not even
When
at
I
50%.
averaged for math, 3rd through 6th, when I added all the recoverable into, and then I averaged each teacher's out again, passing, and then went across, we're at 62% passing for our school. And that's at phase 1, not phase 2.
And that's the first thing.
And that
we
is a lot
talked
of
about.
recoverables in there, not just, so, I mean, that's one of the things that, when I was asking Amber about the calendar, she said in the meetings that she was gonna make sure to ask the teachers, you know, what did your reteach look like? How did you assess that reteach? And what is your reteach gonna be now, and how are you gonna continue to assess that? Not just the objective, but, I don't know. Cause I was asking, like, what questions are we gonna be asking? What do you want me to prepare ahead of time for that? You know?
Using the Gibbs reflective cycle, I a lot of times have mixed feelings about meetings, data meetings. Our situation is I am the experienced support person on our support team, our instructional facilitator, our math specialist, and my reading partner are new this year. This is their first year into instruction and the first year out of classroom. So a lot of times I do have to balance things that I know as a support person and to be careful and let them have their own experiences as a new support person so that they will learn and maybe even see a different perspective than I do. However, I do like to caution our support team about pitfalls that I have experienced before. I do like to caution them about working with certain personalities, teachers that may need a different type of level of coaching. And from those suggestions this year, sometimes it has been a situation where my suggestions have been taken in, and then there has been times where there were feelings of resentment and not really understanding my perspective. I have worked with about 50% of our teachers for the past 11 years, so I'm quite familiar with their work habits. I've even been teammates of several teachers. I have been a support person with several teachers, and I just have a different insight than even our instructional facilitator, who was a teacher at our building. I do have a different insight into working with others. However, I do always encourage new ideas, ways that worked better at other campuses. And I just have to balance things that I have experienced, and I have to remember that maybe some other people will have different experiences than I did, and maybe that they can come with new perspectives and even help to coach me through working with some teachers that may be a little bit more resistant or difficult in the coaching process. Every time we do have an instructional leadership team meeting, I do have to evaluate whether it was a good or bad experience. And as I mentioned before, with my personal feelings or my professional feelings about our experiences in meetings, there have been a lot of good experiences, and then there have been some experiences that were not so good. I think some of our support personnel are confused because this is their first year. They feel that their roles really haven't been defined as well as they should have been or could have been. It's just a year where they're still having classroom reflections, and a lot of times classroom instructional reflections are really great. However, you do have to see it from a different perspective when helping other teachers from a support perspective. So this experience was actually a positive one. Everyone participated. Everyone provided the information that our assistant principal needed us to provide. Everyone knew the students that they had previously been working with. We knew where we needed to monitor and adjust. We knew those areas that we have been somewhat weak in support, and we know those areas that we really, really need to pay a little bit more close attention to, being that we have around 22 days before the fourth grade writing STAR test, standardized state testing. We also are looking forward to the countdown calendar with our remaining grade levels that are our STAR grade levels for testing. The experience sometimes for me can be one that I have difficulties with. A lot of times that our support personnel, they do look towards me for leadership, and I'm happy to lead and to provide suggestions and also take suggestions in myself. But the one confusing thing and frustrating thing for some of us, and even myself being an experienced support person, is that we really would like more direction from our lead administrator about the areas that she would like us to focus on for support. If there are teachers where she would want to see certain activities or certain instructional goals that we can support, and it would just help to make our jobs a little bit more clearer as far as our expectations from our administrator. And those are some of the things that we have expressed even in meetings. And sometimes when we express those things, it will turn out to be a bad experience, because sometimes support still have times where we've left meetings and we still have been just as confused as when we began the meeting. Therefore, this meeting was a good experience, but we have had other experiences as well. It's easier for me to make sense of the situation this time of the year with our support personnel, because they have had time to work with teachers. Even though we haven't reached a full year of our support team working with teachers, they do have a different perspective than when they began first coming in August. So the sense that I can make of it is that we are more targeted in working with specific student groups. We are more targeted with the instruction and TEKS that we know teachers need to be focused with. We are more targeted in our own knowledge about what we need to focus with for student success. And even though our instruction is definitely data driven and our support is also data driven, Our main goal is also that students are successful and students are able to leave our elementary campus being good readers, being good students with math and all content areas. So the sense that I made of the situation is that we had a really good data meeting, and it was focused and it was specific as far as the things that support personnel need to do. An action plan would be to suggest an agenda at future meetings. Even though this was an impromptu meeting and we knew that we were just brainstorming and bouncing off ideas from each other's schedule, it would be a good idea for there to be a set agenda at different types of meetings. Many times we don't have set agendas and we tend to get off focus. A lot of time is being not used effectively in discussion. So the one thing that I would like to see happen different from our meetings would be to have a focused agenda so that we can get specific and even come prepared before meetings rather than to just find out a lot of the information once we get to meetings, which can be frustrating because then we have feelings that we're not prepared. We may not have the materials that we need for the discussions that administration would like to have with us. So just having a simple agenda that could be emailed to us, something that can be informal, but just a way for us to better prepare and be able to have better discussions. My next participation video is an activity, a dyslexic actually, lesson and activities as a result of being observed from a master dyslexic teacher. There were different tips and different parts of activities that she had made suggestions to me last week, and she just basically came and sat in my room, did a regular observation, but there were certain things that she would look for when working with dyslexic students, like having them to refocus throughout different parts of the lesson. She was looking for a little bit more activity, and with this it was basically a reteach of some activities and things that the student did do previously, but I knew I need to go back and participate and review some things with him about some things that she had suggestions. For example, putting together all of the letter cards and having the student to say all the letters and then say the picture cards that were associated with it next. Previously, I had the letter card and then a picture card to match it so that the student could make a better association between a letter and a picture and a sound. However, her suggestion was just to flash the student all the letter cards is what you will see in the video, and then go through all the picture and sound cards, which you will see also in the video. So again, this is a participation video of some areas that I had, some areas of concern for basic dyslexic instruction. Okay, before you go, I want to go over, wait for you to get in learning position, move over, learning position once again. Before you go, let's go through our letter alphabet cards again. Now, can you please remind me again, why is it important for us to know our letters and our sounds?
To know the letter, you have to know learn how to spell it, like spelling home.
Okay.
Spelling H-O-M-E. You have to know how to spell the words.
Okay.
And if you don't know how to read it, you have to know how to sound it out, like huh, oh.
Wow. And you were able to tell me a lot more about that than the first time I asked you, so that's really good. Okay, you ready to run through? We won't run through the whole deck, but we'll do a few again, okay? Are you ready?
H, F, D, L S A T I P N. House. Fish. Dog. Dick. With nose. Sauce.
And I like the way you're able to tell me the difference in the sounds. And we learned, what did we learn about S earlier?
Sometimes when S is at the end, it would say zzz, like nose, or sometimes at the end like socks.
Okay, so we could say either one, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next card.
Apple. T. Table. Igloo. Pig. Nest. Fish.
And we'll finish there. And you remember the suffix S.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you told me about the suffix S earlier?
If you add it to something else, when you add it to like at the end, like suffix, that means more than one suffix.
You're right about it. So give me an example of a word that would have the suffix S that you're thinking about.
Tables.
I like that, tables. And where do you, so basically, if you had an S, what does that mean as far as numbers?
More than one.
Yes, so it can mean 3 or it could mean,
144.
it could very well be.
Be 1,000.
It could be 1,000.
But
So-
it would be hard to put 1,000 tails in one house.
Oh, you think? Yeah, it might be. You might be right about that. In a regular house, probably.
But
Okay.
in a townhouse, that'd be kind of easy. Kind of.
Okay. Let me go over these really quickly. A few. The vowel in an open accented syllable is long. Code with a macron.
Yes.
You remember that one.
Yeah.
A breve is a code mark to indicate a short vowel sound. You remember that one.
Mhm.
The vowel in a closed accented syllable is short, and we code it with a. Remember that code marking? A breve, because it's a short sound. Remember? Okay. Final SS is pronounced. Give me the pronunciation. Okay, as in pass. Can you give me another word that has a S at the end that might have an SS?
SS? I really don't know any.
Okay, I'm glad you admitted that. How about toss? Like toss,
Toss.
as in toss the ball. Okay,
Yeah.
that would have SS at the end. The word a is pronounced when it occurs with other words. The vowel a in an open unaccented syllable is also pronounced and you code it with a. You see the coding mark?
Yes.
What
A
coding mark? A dot. Okay. Here's the last card that we'll do. A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought or idea. Sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with a punctuation mark.
Mhm.
Always, okay?
No, some sentences.
What are you thinking?
Like a question would end with like a question mark. A sentence would end with punctuation. If somebody asked you and you said, I don't know,
Okay.
would be still a period.
Okay. Let's go and review a couple of our capital letters because the capital letters we did not get a chance to do like the lowercase. Okay, I'm looking at our first letter and I'd like for you to skywrite. Are you ready? We're going to just do a quick skywriting review. Okay? We're getting skywriting position, name, and write. I.
Okay. I. Okay. Start.
I like the way you looked at the model and you used it to do your skywriting. Okay, turn your page. Let's do your next skywriting model. Name and write it. You have to name it first.
L.
Very good. Again, it really helps to look at the skywriting models and to do your skywriting, doesn't it? You have it in front of you. Name and write.
P.
Okay. And is that it? Yep, one more. That's it. You may have a seat. Okay, very good. That was a really, really good review today. I hope that over the weekend you can show your mom some of the things that we've been working on in our discussions. You have a lot of things that you've been remembering. You can tell me a lot of information. Was there any new learning for you today that you can think of? What was some of your new learning?
Like naming like things with S, because I know like 42 things that S with S.
42 things? Okay. Well, I want you to have a really great weekend, and I'll see you later.
Spring break too.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
My feelings were with many of these lessons and activities, I'm thinking about it from an administrative point of view. I'm glad that I have had the multi-sensory training for the dyslexic program and activities, because as an administrator, I know that I need to be aware when I am coming to do observations and doing walkthroughs, and just be aware of some of the things that I need to look with not just regular general ed classrooms. So just in reflection, it's good for me to go through this process as a support person and to experience it, so that when I am an administrator, I will know, for example, that it's better for a dyslexic student to look at maybe letter cards together versus mixing letter cards with picture cards, just for the sake of their brain patterns. So my feelings about the lesson is that I'm really glad that she came in from an administrative point of view and left me with some areas that she was concerned about that I needed to go back and possibly revisit in planning and instruction. And again, it will make me reflect as an administrator on those things that I will see from teachers, especially when I go into a dyslexic lesson or session. My experience initially when I met with the dyslexic coach is that it was a really good experience. Of course, as in a regular evaluation battery, she did tell me those things that I was strong with, working with students and going through the different activities for our dyslexic students. And then she did have a few concerns, for example, the letters and the letter cards and the picture cards. And she did also have a good comment that I am able to incorporate technology into lessons and just have students to just view tumble books as their read aloud, which occurs at the end of every lesson. It's a lower level activity as far as technology, but it does change the format as far as me simply sitting and reading the book to students and them being engaged digitally. This was a good experience for me to go back and reteach some of the different parts. I didn't have to reteach a full lesson as my full lessons are planned, but I did go back and I did target the different areas that she had concern, and I did plan those areas out, and that's what you saw in the video. It was just simply me reteaching those areas that had concerns from the dyslexic standpoint. The sense that I can make of the situation, again, I will relate it back to being an administrator myself. And a lot of times, I'm sure, and even talking with the administrators, there are a lot of things that maybe instructionally they may not be aware of, especially when it comes to special programs like dyslexia. So I'm really happy that I do have the background in some of those instructional experiences, so that when I do see students and work with teachers, then I will know certain things to look for. So the sense that I made of it is just to keep a keen sense and focus whenever I'm conducting 2-minute walkthroughs in all, not just general ed classrooms, but special ed classrooms, dyslexia classrooms, even ESL or bilingual, as I'm certified in ESL also. But with this experience, it was a good experience to go back, reteach, rethink, and think about her evaluation notes that she left for me. The thing that I would do different the next time that she conducts some type of walkthrough or evaluation, I think that I will have prepared questions for her about the specific parts to see that I have any growth in those areas that she had concerns about previously. I would like to prepare questions to see if there are other things that I need to change. Maybe I didn't make the expected growth. Maybe I didn't change the activities to the satisfaction from a dyslexic point of view. And I would also like to know overall, does she view the student as being more engaged with the next walkthrough or evaluation that she has? And again, it is a good experience for me to have some of these concerns that she had as an evaluator, so that I can have some of the same things in mind when I'm doing administrative walkthroughs in other areas or other lessons and activities other than general ed classes.